Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for joining this particular session. So I would like to talk about performance tuning in Cassandra. So more specifically, I'll be talking about secondary indexes in Cassandra. So secondary indexes is one of the most misunderstood concepts of Cassandra, and it is very less known concepts of Cassandra. So what we do today is we'll try to have a very much in detail technical implementation of secondary indexes in Cassandra. So this talk is like more of a practical approach. I'll have a three-node Cassandra cluster up and running on my AWS. So so we'll be using it, and it will be like more of a practical way of doing things. So yeah, so that is the agenda. So the agenda is before we jumping into the secondary index, what I do is I'll try to give you some basics to understand secondary indexes. So that is how we start. Then we'll jump into secondary index and we'll see what are the best use cases of using secondary index, and what are the worst anti patterns. We these are the stuff we're gonna see. And before we start, a little bit about me. My full name is Anil Mithana. I'm a certified Cassandra admin and certified Cassandra developer. I really love this subject. Like I'm very passionate about Cassandra database technology, and I also have a YouTube channel running exclusively for Cassandra DBAs. It is purely designed for Cassandra DBAs. So yeah, let's start. So the very first slide, I'll be talking about very first approach in Cassandra. So if you are in traditional RDBMS systems, right, what we do, we create a table first, then we'll think about our queries, right? There is so much flexibility for how you want to query on a RDBMS system. But in Cassandra, we do in opposite way. So in Cassandra, you need to know your queries first before you're gonna create your tables. So you need to know your application workflow. What are all the queries you do at the application level? You need to have a note of all of these things before you're gonna create a table. So let's say my client came and asked me, hey Anil, can you okay, this is what my requirement. At any given time, I'll give me rows for a particular movie. So, okay, so to make it very simple, I'll be dealing with the movies data so that we can connect easily with the content what I'm gonna show it later. So this is what my requirement. Hey Anil, can you give me a rows for a particular movie? So this is what I'll ask you at any given time. So if that is what the requirement, what I do is I'll gonna create a table like this. So this one. So I'm going to create a table, something looks like that. So where my partition key is my title, and this is what my partition key, right? So email is my clustering column, which gives me uniqueness for my primary key, but the main focus would be the title. So title is my partition key. Now, so this is how you create a table, but let's create a table and let's load some data. So I have it ready handy for us so that we can quickly create a table and load some data. So this is the table I'm going to create, and I'm inserting some rows. Then we're going to query that table also. So yeah, so I have a three-node cluster up and running. So that is looking perfect. So I'm connecting to my SQL SH client. From there, I'll switch to my no key space. So you have to use command is the command if you want to jump into that particular key space. So that is where I'm going to create a table now. So I'm creating a table, and I loaded some data, and here we have a data. Now before going further, what I do, I'm using a tool called MobiStrum. I think previously one of our speaker already mentioned it about MobiStrum. This is a wonderful tool, especially on Windows if you want to manage your Cassandra clusters. This is a very good tool to connect and use it. Now, so I have a table, and so what is my requirement? So my client asked me, hey Anil, can you give me all the rows for a Avatar movie? So I want to know who and all watched and what and all ratings given to Avatar movie. So what I do is, I'll run a query something like this, right? Select start from table where title is equal to avatar. I got the output, right? And what is more special about it? Like, is there any special thing about getting this output? Yeah, yes. Now, what is that? See, to give you that output, because Cassandra is a distributed database, what happens, in Cassandra, your table basically will get distributed by using your partition key. So this is very important. If you notice here, your table will get distributed, but in terms of partitions. So if you ask me, hey Anil, can you tell me what do you mean by Cassandra table in Cassandra table? I'll tell you, Cassandra table is a collection of partitions. So that partitions will contain rows belongs to a single partition. Now see, uh, whoever is watching Avatar movie, that data will be in one single partition, and that partition will be in a single node, one single node. So let's say you have a three nodes here, right? You are seeing three nodes. Maybe Cassandra, how Cassandra will store is, it keeps the avatar data in one single node, probably on node one. It stores the Interstellar movie probably on node two. No, it stores the Lucy movie data in node three. So you got this, how it is storing. It is storing so beautifully, right? Now, what is the advantage, by storing in that way? See, when you query, just now I ran select query. Now, to give you this output, it's a single discrete output. That is the power of Cassandra. So when you run this query, it just goes and grab it from one single node. It's a single disk, single disk read. So you get it so quickly. So yeah, now that is one way of having advantage. But there are some because you are getting an advantage from one side. There is a flexibility issue, with your select queries, and especially with the partition key. See what I mean by that. Now, see, if client came today and if he asked me, hey Anil, can you give me rows, for a particular user? Like I want to know all the movies watched by a particular user. See, if that is what your query, I'm sorry, I cannot give you that output, because you remember it's a query first approach. You need to know your queries much earlier before you create a table. So we already discussed our application workflow or queries, and today if you came and asked me some different query, Cassandra cannot give you that. So that is where duplication comes into the picture, denormalization comes into the picture. So especially if you are from RDBMS world, right, and if you are coming into the Cassandra, it looks similar, a little different, right? It is because it is completely opposite. In Cassandra, duplication is completely allowed. You know, Cassandra encourages you to do duplication and denormalization, right? Now, if you want to look up by email, you have to create one more table with the same data. You need to duplicate it. So that is the best way of fetching the data for you if you want to look up by email, right? Now, so I have already created this table and I'll show you how it works. Now, if you notice, what I just did is I created a ratings by email where email is my partition key. If you and I loaded same insert queries. I mean, there is nothing changed. Everything is same insert queries, right? Now, when you store it, if you see how it is storing, now it is storing by keeping your user as a partition, right? Everything watched by Sharma, everything watched by Ram, it's keeping in a one single partition, and that will go and sit in one single place. So anytime if I want to fetch the rows watched by Sharma, I can get it so easily. It's a single discrete. Anything from any movies like watched by Pile, I'll get it so easily, so quickly. Yeah. Now all good. So duplication is there and denormalization is there. Like all good. Now what is next? Now let's say there is one more requirement today. All of a sudden, client came and asking me, hey Anil, can you give me rows where rating is equal to 8? So I want to know all the movie list where rating is equal to 8. So can I get that? Can you give me that output? A big sorry, right? I cannot give you. You cannot change your queries, day by day. So if today if you come and ask me, give me rows where rating is equal to 8, I cannot give you that. See, it is giving you an error, right? Cannot execute this query because there could be unpredictable performance issues. But if you still want to execute this query, Cassandra is telling me to use hello filtering, right? Let's say some developer, a new developer from read this message and he ignored everything and he just focused on this particular piece, hello filtering. Let's do that. So what he did is he ran this query where okay, we need to this is the query where rating is equal to 8. It is throwing an error, and Cassandra is telling me to do use allow filtering. So it is not here use, it is allow filtering. I got the output. Now the developer is so happy. See, it was like previously throwing an error, and I used allow filtering. I'm getting the results right now. This is where the main drama comes into the picture. Allow filtering is completely bad. Now you are not supposed. I mean, it is not advisable, and there should be a big no if on allow filtering. Now, what just happened? Why you shouldn't use allow filtering? Let's say you have 2 lakh records in your table, okay, and there were like 100 records where rating is equal to 8 out of 2 lakhs. So what just happened is, when you ran this query, what Cassandra does is it will scan all the 2 lakh records and then it will apply the filters on it and it will give you the output for you. So basically, you are doing a full cluster scan, right? Which is completely bad. It may bring down your node if you use allow filtering, right? So completely bad. That is the recommendation, especially if you are on a production. Try not to use allow filtering. Now, what is the fix, right? There comes your index. Okay, this is where we are jumping into the actual topic, secondary indexes. Now, what I do is I'll create an index on rating column. So I'll clear my screen. What I'm doing is I'm creating a secondary index on my rating column. Now, previously error, right, for this particular query. So we ran allow filtering. So now what I'm doing, because I have a secondary index now, I'll run that query and I got the output. So if you have a secondary index, I know you can get the output. Now, here comes one more point. So then if it is working fine, if secondary index is giving output properly, then why you told me to duplicate the data? Now, when I want to look up by email, why can't you go and create a secondary index? Why you told me to duplicate it and now you're telling create an index and get the output, right? So this is where we we gonna complicate our things. So little bit more focus is needed. Now what I do is like to demonstrate. Now I have two options, right? Get if I want to look up by ratings, I have two options. One option is duplicate the table with the same data, or else create a secondary index and use secondary index to get the output, right? Two things. Now we have one thing already there. What I do is like I'll create a duplicate table by keeping rating as a partition key. Now what I'm doing, I'm creating same data, loading same data, but I'm just changing I'm duplicating it by keeping rating as my partition key. Now, so let's start from ratings by ratings, where rating is equal to now. So I got the output. So here in this screen, you are seeing you got the output by using secondary index. In this screen, you are seeing the output from a duplicate table, right? Now, if you can able to understand the difference between these two, how they are getting stored, I mean how secondary index is storing and how a duplicate table is storing the data, you get a better idea about how to implement secondary indexes in Cassandra. Now, when I query from my duplicate table, right, from the original table, right, from here, it's a single disk read. We just we understood this already, right? Because rating is my partition key. Remember, partition key is what a primary index. Like all the time I'm talking about secondary index. Like you might be getting a doubt like what I mean, then what is a primary index, right? So primary index and partition key both are same. So primary index is what here you are looking here. Now your primary index data basically will get distributed. What I mean, right? See here, every time someone gives a rating 8, that will come and sit in this particular partition, right? And this partition will be in a single node, right? So probably this whole data might sit in node 1. All the people who were giving rating 7, that will be one single partition, and that will be stored in a one single node. Remember, your partition data will never get distributed between the two nodes. So one single partition will belongs to one single node. Now, when I ran this query, it's a single discrete, correct? It only one single node involved in this particular output. So to give you this output depends on your replication factor. Let's say you have a replication factor set to 1. Now in that case, it's like, it's a single, this query um involved only one single node. Now, what about secondary index then? How many nodes are getting involved when you run using secondary index? That is the whole, concept of secondary indexes. Now, to understand, you need to understand, how secondary index will be stored inside Cassandra when you create them. Now, so when you create a secondary index, we already know how to create an index. Now, when you create an index on, let's say in our case, we created it on a rating column. Now, what happens is Cassandra will create a hidden table for you, and it will manage everything, in the background. You don't need to worry about it. Now, so Cassandra creates a hidden table, and if you notice, your primary key rating is your partition key. I meaning in the secondary index, rating is your partition key, and it will take entire primary key as a part of the rest of the primary key in the hidden table. So this is how the table looks like. Now, how table data, index data will get stored, right? So this is the original table and this is the index table, right? Now I'll show you our how it gets stored. So this is very interesting. We'll pay attention a little bit more here. Now, this is your original table, right? Where you are storing data by title. And on this table, you created a rating, right? Now, when you create a rating, you have a one more table got created. Now, here comes your index data. So the main difference between your base data, this is the base data, right? Original table data and the index data. What is the main difference? The main difference is your base data will get distributed, meaning all avatar data will be in one place, all industrial data will be in one place, right? But if you notice your index data basically co-locate on the same node with the source data. So confused? You didn't get it what I just said. So let's pay attention here. Now, what happens is your index data will be co-located on the same node with the source data, meaning your index data only local. So here, like three people watched, three people given rating 8, three people will given 9, and three people given 7, right? Only that data will be stored on that node, right? Now, what is the disadvantage by storing in that way? Let's run this query. Select star from ratings movie where rating is equal to 8, right? This is what you're querying using secondary index, right? Where rating is equal to 8. Now, your Cassandra cluster doesn't know where is this rating 8 data. See, if you say where rating is equal to, if you say where title is equal to avatar, see, everyone knows about it now. So every node knows where avatar data is because that's the primary index. But if secondary index data, no one knows. Like your Cassandra doesn't know where is the data. Basically, what happens now? It has to hit every single node to get the data, right? See, everywhere people given rating 8 for every movie, and it has to go and scan every single index data, and from there it has to grab the primary index. I mean, uh, uh, it has to scan index data. From there, it has to grab your primary key of base data, and it has to go here and get the output for you. So every time you read, it has to look up your index data, it has to look up your base data, and it will happen in every single node. Let's say you have 100 nodes, all 100 nodes will get involved when you look up by secondary index. Okay, let's say you have a replication factor, let's say 3, and you have 100 nodes. Even in that case also, you have to hit at least 33 nodes. I mean, which is really bad, right? Even though it is 33 nodes, still it is huge. Now, so you might ask me, hey, why, in that case, why it is storing that way? Why cannot it just stores the way it is storing the primary index? Like, why cannot it? Why it is not storing index data also like this? Keep all the 8 data in one node, keep all the 7 data in node, keep all the 9 data in node. Why it is not doing that? So there are two issues, if you store that way. Let's say, imagine your secondary index is storing this way, right? It is keeping all the rows where rating is equal to 8 in one single place. Let's say you have like 5 lakh records. Out of 5 lakh records, let's say 90% of the rows having rating is equal to 8. So most of the people given rating 8 for movies. Now what happens if you store the data of 8 in one single node? You will end up with a wide partition, right? You will end up, that particular node will have a wide partitions, right? Additional load on that particular node, which is bad. Again, one more thing. Uh, by keeping index data local, it is easy for you to update indexes. So there won't be any index latency issues when you are doing mutations, update, deletes, inserts, whatever you're doing on your base data. It has to get updated in index, right? So when you have it local, it is so easy for you to get updated. But if you distributed it, there can be consistency issues, right? That is what you're getting from material edge views, isn't it? So basically, material edge views is like distributed index. So that is where you see all the latency issues. So to avoid all of them, so Cassandra having these two reasons to store index data along with the original data. So we already discussed these 2 points. Now, by this time, I hope you already got to know what is distributed index and local index, right? Local index is what your secondary index, where every time if there are 100 nodes, all 100 nodes will get involved, right? Distributed index are like much better way of querying the data, because let's say you have 100 nodes with 5 replication factors set to 5. Maybe when you query 5 nodes and one coordinator node, hardly like 6 nodes will be involved in your query. Now we also see what is the write path and read path. Now I hope we already discussed what is the read path, right? So every time you look up by index, it has to scan index data and your base data, and get the data, right? What happens with the writes? So whenever you are writing, whenever you're doing a mutation, right? Mutation meaning like inserts, update, deletes on the base data. So there is a hook. There is some kind of notification will be sent to all the registered indices on that particular table, and your base table data and your index mem table both will get flushed into the SS table, into your disk, and there is no guarantee both will get flushed at the same time. And once it got flushed, your index data and base data will have a different life cycle in terms of compactions and repairs. So that is also you have to consider. They don't have a same life cycle. So your index data will be compacted differently, and your base data will get compacted on a different way. Now, so all the time we were like almost like it's a complaint. We were like trying to understand what is the complexity of using secondary indexes, right? Now, if this is so much complicated, why we have secondary indexes in Cassandra? There should be some reason to have them in Cassandra, right? Yeah, there are reasons actually. There are some best use cases to use secondary indexes. Now, I'll put a one statement. So secondary indexes in Cassandra will not give you performance. They are there to give you convenience for your queries. So very important statement. They are not there to give you performance. Okay, they are there to give you convenience for your queries. What I mean by that? Now, uh, let's look into our. So this is what expensive query, right? When I run where rating is equal to 8 on my secondary index, it get all the nodes will get involved in that particular query. Now, what would be the right way of asking when you have a secondary index? Now, I'll tell you this. Now, so instead of asking select star from ratings by movie, by movie where so rating is equal to 8. I mean, this is bad. This is expensive query, right? Now, what was the right way? Now, ask, include your primary index also. Title is equal to avatar. So, this would be a proper way of using secondary index. Now, don't ask me, give me all the rows for where rating is equal to 8. I mean, bad query, expensive query. Ask me this. Give me all the rows where rating is equal to 8 for a particular movie. So I want to know who and all given rating 8 for Avatar movie. So that would be a right query to ask Cassandra. So when you ask that, what happens? It's a single disk read. Well, the moment you include your primary index, it becomes a single, right? So it doesn't need to hit any other nodes, right? It has to go and hit only one single node. So this is a more real-time transactional query, than this. This is more expensive, and this is the less. I mean, actual query to use actual implementation of secondary indexes. Now, let's say there is one more way you can use secondary indexes. Now, instead of asking all the rows, let's limit it. Let's say limit to. I'm doing, I'm asking, hey, I'm limiting my rows, number of rows. So to two. Let's say you have a, you want to limit 100 rows, okay? Like let's say you have 100 nodes, and you are fetching only by 50 rows by saying limit 50. Now, what happens? Cassandra will have an internal mechanism, internal algorithm. So what it does is, the moment it gets the those 50 rows, it will stop scanning other nodes. So that's how you can actually, let's say you got 50 rows by scanning 5 nodes. So it will skip remaining 95 nodes and it will give you the output for you. So that happens internally. Now the basic idea is, try to narrow down the number of nodes you query. See, by keeping primary index, you reduce the query to one single node. By keeping limits on your query, so by keeping limits on your query, you're also narrow down in your number of nodes to hit, correct? So these are some actual implementations of secondary indexes in Cassandra. So they are there to give you convenience, right? This is what the convenience they will give you for your queries. They are not give you performance, right? They're also good for analytics workloads, especially on if you're using Spark. Secondary indexes are very much helpful because there won't be SLA that measured in milliseconds, on Spark side. Now, this is very important, especially if you are from traditional traditional RDBMS world. You have to know what are the worst anti patterns, because I see most of the developers coming from RDBMS, they tend to create indexes, right? See, that is what happens in traditional RDBMS systems. Whenever there is a query performance issue, a DB or a developer tend to create a secondary index. I mean, it's a very common practice, creating an index. In most of the cases, it will resolve the issue, right? But in Cassandra, we already got to know it is not the right practice to create indexes whenever you want to create on whatever the columns you want to create, right? Obviously, we have to avoid creating index on very low cardinality column. I'll say, let's say gender. So gender is having only two columns. I mean, two values, right? Okay. So gender is having very low values, like 3. So you will end up with wide partitions if you use gender. I mean, if you create a secondary index on a gender column, so which is very bad. And you should avoid creating indexes on very high cardinality columns also. For example, email. So email is like a very much unique value. Every row will have a unique value, and it is completely bad because if you create a secondary index on an email and you are looking for that particular email, you might end up getting the output by hitting one single node, or you might end up hitting every single node and getting a result 0. So completely you should avoid it. Now you have to avoid creating index on a column where you will update very frequently, right? You shouldn't create it on a column where you update or a column values repeatedly, right? So these are some worst anti patterns which you have to avoid. Now there are problems and limitations. We already got to know some kind of a problems, and the limitations, right? You are not allowed to use range queries on secondary index columns. I mean, you can say rating is equal to 8, but you cannot say rating where rating greater than 8 or rating less than 8. They are not possible on secondary indexes. And also, because this whenever they get index data and base data will get flushed into SS tables, they follow a different life cycle and different compaction process. And you there also you will end up having some issues if the base data are compacted quickly and your index data is not yet compacted. There is a mismatch again. So there are some limitations when you use secondary indexes, and that is where we talk about SASE storage. SS table attached storage index. So here, when you, I mean, SASE index also one type of a secondary index where it gives you more flexibility when you query. Basically, it allows you to use range queries. You can use like parameters on your on your index column. So very much similar. What we do is, like, we'll try to create a SASE index also quickly. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a SASE index on user location column. So here on this user location column. So, and you have to pay attention to this warning. SASE indexes are experimental. I mean, they are not recommended for production use. We'll try to understand, why such warning was displayed. Now, once you have a SASE index, you can use like parameters. So let me run this query. So I can get the output where user location is, like anything like starting with you, right? And again, it's an expensive query. Everything is all the entire implementation is same, and it is expensive query. It hits every single node as we discussed, right? Now, what is the much better way of querying? Always include your primary index also in your select query, right? So give me all the rows where user location is, like percentage, and where title is equal to avatar. So that would be a much better query, and it will hit only one single node. All good. Now, so that is what SASE will do. And one more thing, SASE will have uh, SASE will have a physical representation. What I mean by that is, like, the moment you flush. So let's flush it. So your index will have SS table along with your base SS table. So what I mean by that, like, let me clear my screen and let's jump into the base, and our table name is ratings by movie. So here where we created SASE, right? And if you notice, your index data also will have your SS table, right? And these SS tables will get involved in your compactions and in your repairs. So you have to be very much careful. Obviously, you're putting additional pressure on your compactions and on your repairs if you have a SASE index. So that is where you need to pay attention when you are creating a SASE. You obviously you're putting additional pressure on your compactions and repairs. So anyway, as of now, SASE indexes are experimental. So make sure you're not using them on production. If you're using them, contact the support. Now, so that's almost, we are ending into the final topic. So I would like to put some final thoughts. Obviously, secondary indexes are there to give you convenience. I mean, this is, I'm stretching from the beginning. They are not there to give you performance. Okay, do not try to create all the time secondary index, on whatever the columns you wanted to create. This is bad, right? You need to understand, how Cassandra is storing the data, secondary index data. what would be the right way of querying if you have a secondary index? Always try to put primary index in it. All otherwise, try to limit the number of nodes you are hitting, right? And the uh, the much better way, the very generic recommendation is to have one secondary index per table, or else almost try to avoid creating them. If it is like if the requirement is like much suitable to have a one more duplicate table, always go ahead and create a duplicate table, because uh, querying on a primary index like on partition key is much faster than querying on a secondary index. So that's it. So yeah, stay home and stay safe. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very glad to be speaking on this particular platform. Yeah, thank you so much.